Also today, we are learning more about the men who died in Maduro's compound when he was extracted by the United States military. Turns out many of them are Cuban, not Venezuelan. NBC6 politics reporter Hatzel Vela, who worked inside of Cuba as a journalist for quite some time. Hatzel, you know so much of the country. I know you joined us now with the very latest on what you've learned.
And Roxy, if you've worked in this country, you've studied this country, you know historically the Cuban government has denied having any military presence in Venezuela. But now they're admitting 32 of their own died in the U.S. military attack. You're looking at pictures now of the men the Cuban government says died in combats in Venezuela. On state-run television, Cubans were told the men were in Venezuela fulfilling missions at the request of the Venezuelan government there. The men ranged in age from 26 to 67 years old.
Okay, welcome to the video, guys. This is Justin Paul. So I just wanted to do a reaction here to the news. Of course, Trump had already alluded to it, that Cubans were actually, the detail for Maduro in Venezuela. So, they had, hired Cubans. It looks like they were all, maybe military, maybe private citizens. Not necessarily too clear as far as that's concerned, but, Cuba had denied the fact that, they were even there, to help Venezuela. But now they're coming back and saying that they were on a mission, in Venezuela. And we know the mission was to protect Maduro. Unfortunately, these young guys, they lost their lives protecting someone, from a whole nother country. They wasn't even in their own country protecting their own citizens and their own families. They were in another country protecting someone else in their interests, and they were just put in the line of fire. And it's definitely unfortunate. But this is pretty much what they signed up for. So not to be too insensitive to them that lost their lives, but now their family has to deal with all the you know the whole backlash of it, the whole aftermath of this whole thing. Like, their families are the ones that are having to deal with all of this, all the sorrow and everything that comes with losing a loved one. But maybe they was getting paid pretty good, better than what they would be getting paid if they was just, living in Cuba. But honestly, I honestly don't think it was worth it. But some people don't even have a choice of what they're gonna do. So
No hay tropas de seguridad de Cuba en Venezuela.
Interestingly enough, back in 2019, here's a Cuban official denying the allegations that Cuban military was in Venezuela. But again, now confirmation, 32 died in that extraction where Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was captured. This morning, the president talked about the Cuban involvement.
Nobody was killed, and on the other side, a lot of people were killed. Unfortunately, I say that, soldiers. Cubans, mostly Cubans, but many, many killed, and they knew we were coming.
Now back on live, experts who study the region for decades have been saying Cuban intelligence has been working hand in hand with the Hugo Chavez and subsequent Maduro governments.
I think it'll be very difficult to bring in Cubans to replace the ones who were killed or have now gone into hiding, etc. So I think that in that sense, this has debilitated the intelligence structure considerably, particularly monitoring the opposition.
A lot happening when it comes to this issue. We're working to get you more reaction on this developing story. We'll have more for you later on. For now, reporting live in the newsroom, Hatzel Vela, NBC6 News.
Also today, we are learning.
and maybe they were like Donald Trump was saying, maybe they were aware that this was going to happen. But it's always those who shouldn't have been in the way, or those who, really shouldn't have anything to do with it, that are really just used as pawns, really. Their lives didn't really mean too much to Maduro, man. He knew that they was just, you know, going to be there to fight for him, to try to protect them, and definitely put them in harm's way. Especially, the fact that he knew that eventually this was going to come to this. I just wonder why, no Venezuelans were used to protect them. Why did they have to, go that route as far as getting Cubans to come into Venezuela? And I know they were saying that Cuba and Venezuela working hand in hand as far as intelligence is concerned. But we also do know that the CIA was able to get operatives, in on the inside. That's how they got the whole layout of how Maduro's the place where he was staying. That's how they got the whole layout, because the CIA was able to get people in there to infiltrate and gather information and get it sent back. So very, very unfortunate for, the many people on the Cuban side. But my question is, man, why Maduro didn't have Venezuelans there to protect him? And that's why I just think that he wasn't really very popular amongst a lot of Venezuelans. Especially Venezuelans who actually live there or who didn't vote for him to be into power. And that's how it's kind of hard for me to see this turning into any type of war, because I really don't know if the Venezuelans are willing to fight, for his honor like that. And, that's just my whole thing. And it's just my opinion and how I've seen it from all the information that I've gathered. I've even had comments on my videos saying that, he really wasn't the true president of Venezuela. That, he took that office. So that's really the sentiment that's coming out of there. A lot of times, people are going to definitely have opposition to this because they just don't like Donald Trump for whatever their reasons are. And no matter what he does, it's going to be people who just don't like him and just don't like what he does. But, and of course they're talking about how they've seen this before with, other, when other, dictators or leaders of countries were taken out of power, how things just kind of went into chaos. With the fact of it being oil there, and that the United States is looking to take over that whole oil industry that's going on in Venezuela, I really doubt that'll be the case. I don't think Trump was lying about that, and if anything like that does happen, like, I'm sure the military is still right in that region to where they'll be able to, they'll be able to cut that threat off before it even starts. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Just wanted to bring this video there because, he was saying that some Cubans were killed. Now we know it's 32, Cuban nationals who were killed protecting Maduro, while the U.S. went in and performed their operation to capture him and bring him back to the United States. I'm going to close out this video. If you like my content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. This is Justin Paul. Peace.